How should we deal with being misunderstood? First of all, it could be worth the while to think about what it means to be misunderstood and consider the different kinds of misunderstanding. So, two immediate such kinds that come to mind would be unintentional misunderstanding and intentional misunderstanding. To better understand what that means, we can take our own point of view. Sometimes I do not understand other people simply because I don't know enough. I don't get what you're doing. You're doing something, I don't get it. Right? Maybe a certain job that you're doing, or a certain lifestyle that you live, or skills and talents that you have. I just don't get it. But if you explain to me, I'd be happy to hear. And I would say, that's pretty cool. If it is cool, I would evaluate it without any kind of excessive impartiality, right? Or should we say partiality, meaning where I'm looking at it fairly. If it's nice what you're doing, I'll say it's nice. And if it's not, I'll say it's not. Another, however, form of misunderstanding could be called intentional. That is where I want to perceive you in a certain way because it serves me in some way. So therefore, even if you explain to me very kindly, very charitably, everything about yourself, I still would turn a blind eye to that which I want to turn a blind eye to. And I would only attend to, meaning pay attention to that which is useful for me. So, what is the source of the first kind of misunderstanding? Well, simply enough, it's that we don't know everything. There's a tremendous amount of, we could say, diversity and difference in the world. And not only as it concerns people, but as it concerns everything. From material things, such as different chemical interactions, how difficult that can be to understand all of them or to know all about them, to animals, insects, plants, millions and millions of species, at least, tens of millions perhaps, whatever the case might be. Right? So even in a whole lifetime, we would never understand every animal and insect and plant that there is. And also, of course, there are ourselves, people, billions of particular examples, and depending on how we kind of parse things up, the tremendous variety of types and sorts and kinds, whatever the case might be. For example, there's careers that we know nothing about, whoever it is that I am. There are points of view, belief systems that I've never even heard of, opinions that, wow, I've never even heard of such a thing. Right, so that's one way to think about the first kind of misunderstanding. There's just a lot of things to know, and some of them I don't know. However, if I have what's called a goodwill or a good attitude, I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. I'm willing to hear you out and share, or hear you share what your life is like from your own point of view, if you're willing to share, and what you do and why you do it and so forth. And I'll listen, charitably, in the way that I would have you listen to me, assuming I'm healthy. The second sense of misunderstanding, however, would be in view of my own selfishness and my own needs in light of my self-centeredness and the claims of my pride and such. So, for example, I want to be number one, or I want to be the biggest fish in my mental pond, and therefore anything that is conducive to that, I'll listen to, and anything that is not, I'll discard. So let's say the second type of intentional misunderstanding, somebody's better than me at something. I don't even process it. That's nothing. I don't hear it. Right? Somebody makes me feel inadequate. That person is evil. They're scum. They're nothing. Their accomplishments mean nothing. Somebody makes me self-conscious morally. Maybe somebody's just a better person than me. They're nicer than me, kinder than me, and that makes me feel bad and inferior. So I say, that person, I'm sure that they got something going on. They're probably, corrupt in some or another way. Right? So basically, I'm tailoring things to accommodate my own egoism and my own selfishness. Now, to flip things around, and concerning ourselves as the subject of judgment, understanding, or misunderstanding. Same as with our own perspective concerning others, there are some people that don't understand us just because they don't know enough. They don't get what we're about, what our life is about, what we do, and such. If we explain, however, then a person with a good attitude and goodwill will get me. They may not agree with what I do. They may still say that, I don't think that you're on the path that you think you're on. I don't think that you'll get to the destination that you say you want to get to by doing the things that you do. But this person wants to understand me. This person wants to see the good in me. Think, for example, a good parent, a good teacher, a good counselor, or some such figure. The person wants desperately me to be successful. They want to see me win. They want to see me be great. And they're maybe even the other way biased, disregarding negative things. But certainly they will apprehend all the evidence that can be gathered concerning any positive qualities that I may have. Oh, you gave a couple of dollars to the home challenged person. You're so great. Oh, you got an A on your test. You're a genius. That kind of thing. The second example then would be, or the second sort of misunderstanding would be those who have no interest in understanding us in that charitable, positive way, and instead understand us, or rather misunderstand us, in view of their own selfish claims, which can be very confused. And it's not to say that a person is intentionally sitting there and thinking, I know all about myself and I'm going to specifically misunderstand this person. It's all just as it happens. So in the second case, it might be thought to be a fool's errand to try to explain ourselves. If somebody is absolutely intent on misunderstanding me, or on demonizing me, or on projecting on me, or at me, whatever it is, scapegoating me, then it would be perhaps a waste of time and effort to sit there and try to convince them otherwise. No, but you disregard this. Look, I did this and that, and so forth. So here, the kind of intuitive or natural reaction then is to respond kind to kind. You treat me like this. You misunderstand me. I'll misunderstand you. You demonize me. I'll demonize you. But that never amounts to anything productive or human. Hate does not lead to love. Hate leads to more hate. Misunderstanding leads to more misunderstanding. Viewing others uncharitably, or viewing those who view us uncharitably, leads to more uncharitable such misjudgment. So the better approach then could be to address wrong with right. You misunderstand me, but I won't misunderstand you. I recognize you're a complicated person, and you have certainly positive traits along with any negative traits that you might have. You need to see me in a certain kind of way for your needs. That's too bad. I hope that you mature and grow up a little bit or a lot. But in the meantime, I'm not going to return the tit for tat, whatever the expression is. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to be the bigger guy or girl and try to view you charitably all the same. And that can, as it happens, help the other person eventually view us charitably, but that shouldn't be the goal. The goal is to be oneself, to be understood properly, to trend toward truth, to be a better person. Whether or not somebody understands or misunderstands us in itself is besides the point. With that said, we can wrap up with the kind of footnote that quite often, or at least sometimes, it is the case that our qualms with other people's so-called misunderstanding are bad, right? Are really in light of our own selfishness and our own egoism. So, for example, if a person in the position of a parent, or a well-meaning parent for that matter, that's not an assumption, well-meaning parent, well-meaning counselor, well-meaning friend, confidant, gives us advice, right? Or tells us, this is destructive what you're doing. I may very easily say, you're misunderstanding me. You don't get me. You don't get what I'm about, and I'm going to disregard your point of view completely. That might not be wise, because other people do have insight on us, oftentimes, that we do not have. So it takes a fair bit of honesty, self-knowledge, and self-awareness to differentiate between when we're dealing with a quote-unquote hater, somebody that simply wants to misunderstand us because of their own self-centered, selfish nonsense, and they'll say whatever, they'll blatantly twist things around and lie and make up narratives, spin up stories, simply and solely to make us out to be the worst thing that there has ever been, right? To view us as just the complete black giant, black demon, whatever it might be. There's a difference between that and when people have a reaction to us, when people maybe see something that we don't see and point it out to us. Not every time that another person says that I'm wrong or disagrees with me or even condemns me, not every time does that fall under the category that was just mentioned, meaning the person is just a hater. They might be more than a hater, or they might be a hater, but they might still have a point. So it behoves me then, too, meaning it's a good idea then to charitably take another person's uncharitable interpretation of me, setting aside those obviously blatant cases. Somebody maybe doesn't even know my name and just is screaming at me, you're an idiot. Okay, right? How am I an idiot? Let me think about it. Maybe not. But otherwise, consider what other people say. Maybe they have a point. And either way, continue to or begin to try to understand other people as charitably as possible, including and perhaps most of all those who do not understand us. Thank you for listening.